take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And one thing I used to always tell my sons is that you were born to be great and do great things, but I then put a comma after it for others.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Laitler, your host of the LEO First podcast. Today, I am in San Antonio, like I was yesterday, at the FBI Leader Conference, having an amazing time here. I've been able to meet a lot of great people like Michael Robinson, and it's been pretty cool to see the level of leadership, the level of dedication, just people's personalities at a place like this. This is my first FBI Leader Conference, and I hope I get the opportunity to come back next year where they're going to have it in New Orleans, but definitely what we have right now is second to none. Obviously, you guys know I speak at a lot of conferences. I do a lot of podcasts. It's just this environment just cultivates learning, and it cultivates family. It cultivates people that want to be here, and that's what I love everywhere I go. As you know, this podcast is about humanizing the badge, talking about people's lives, whether it's professional, personal, and creating that connection to let us know that there are people out there like us that want to see us grow. And at a place like this FBI leader, and then with leaders like Mike, I can tell you there's a lot of people, about 650 here, that really want to push that agenda. So
absolutely,
you guys are going to stop hearing me ramble because you know how I can get going. You guys know I speak. And it's not about me, it's about the people on here, and of course it's about you. Without further ado, I will go ahead and let Mike tell us who you are.
Awesome. First of all, a servant leader, right? A person who believes in people and who's had an opportunity to actually grow because I've met and engaged with a lot of good people, like yourself, and like many, not only in law enforcement, but any other industry that I've had an opportunity and the pleasure to engage with. So I'm a simple person, right? So, but I care about not only what I do, I care about professionalism, I care about making sure that we're focused on professionally developing people, and I've been doing that my whole career, starting with my time in the United States Army. Back when I was in college, you're quite welcome. Yes. When I was in college, I was enlisted in the Army, serving in the National Guard and Reserves, and so that I can help pay my way through college, like many of us do.
Economically smart, yes.
Absolutely. So that taught me a whole lot about making sure that we as individuals are making every effort every day to take care of each other. So starting with that time, I was very fortunate to serve as an enlisted person, served during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and because I was in college, I was in ROTC at the time, I came back to college after that short stint because that campaign ended very quickly. Came back, finished ROTC, got commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army, learned a little bit more about leadership, a little bit more about people. After graduating from college, I took a National Guard and Reserve commission, as I stated earlier, and then I went straight into federal service. Starting first as a civilian person, actually at the Social Security Administration in a civilian capacity, where not only you learn more about service, you learn more about taking care and caring for people, right? Especially our most vulnerable.
Correct.
I was very fortunate to take that into the law enforcement arena. So starting as a civilian person in the federal service, and I was very fortunate and blessed to meet a lot of people while I was in that capacity who kind of coached me up.
Correct.
And exposed me to other opportunities, and one of those opportunities was serving as a special agent and starting out with the U.S. Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General, starting my service in Baltimore, Maryland, city which I love very dearly, and worked in Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
Busy areas.
Very, very busy areas. Learned a great deal. Learned a great deal about just people in general from various walks of life, Being from a small town in Georgia, that was a huge exposure to me. But one thing I've always been taught is people are people. As long as you treat them, fairly, treat them with dignity and treat them with respect, no matter what it is that they have or who they are or where they come from. And I've always been that type of person.
Yeah.
So my law enforcement career, again, starting in Baltimore, working in Washington, D.C., had some very, very good bosses that thought they were much more visionary than I was at the time, because I really didn't know what I was really getting into, right? But they knew that I needed to get exposed to other
Correct.
things, get developed as a professional, and so they sent me to U.S. Secret Service to work on a task force and actually permanently placed me there for about 2.5 years. So I was doing more traditional law enforcement work when I worked in that capacity, and most of that was in Southern Maryland, Washington, D.C., as well as Northern Virginia. So we were a pretty active unit, very, very active actually, and it was extremely promising. I mean, it was absolutely amazing, an amazing experience. And after the stint of that, and during that time, I was also an electronic crime special agent. So got a chance to dibble and dab in computer forensics.
A little bit of IT
which,
stuff, yes.
Yes, which I think and would encourage all law enforcement officers to not be one-dimensional, right? You need to learn another skill set. And what that did for me, and unfortunately it was because of this very tragic event, what that did for me is I was selected during and after 9/11 to work in what they call the Special Investigations Operations Center, or SIOC. So I worked there and reported there probably 2 days after 9/11, working at FBI headquarters. So I was assigned there for about a year or so, a little bit over a year. Again, more exposure. Learned a lot of great things.
Yeah, why not?
And met a lot of great people, because this is a relationship business.
It is.
And we have to understand that, which is what you get from this conference and many other conferences as well. All the conferences, in my opinion, they complement each other, and we're hopeful that all the conferences, especially the law enforcement related conferences, will always consistently support each other, because we support other conferences as well. But nonetheless, during that time, I learned a great deal about how the big picture looks, because we were literally working on the investigation in response to the 9/11 incident. And so that was eye-opening for me. And at that point in my career, I had options. Not that I didn't have options where I was, but I had other options because individuals were approaching me about other opportunities at some of the traditional federal agencies. But I had very good mentors, very good friends that I worked with that convinced me that I needed to stay where I was on a permanent basis, because it looked like the trajectory of my career was starting to really take off, right?
Yeah.
And so I was really still in the beginning stages of my career. I wasn't too many years in, and actually it was less than 10 years in the federal government at the time. I was selected to become first the program manager for the electronic crimes team for our agency, running computer forensics in and around the country, and shortly thereafter was selected to become the assistant and special agent in charge of the Philadelphia Field Division, which is really an absolutely amazing experience for me.
Especially at that point in your career.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So left Baltimore, went to Philadelphia, and
Two different cities.
Two different cities.
Close, but close in distance.
Yeah.
But two different just atmospheres altogether.
Altogether, and worked with a great team there. Had a great time while I was at ASAC, but within 9 months, I became the special agent in charge. So went from the assistant special agent in charge
Jump in leadership quick.
to the special agent in charge. I was every bit of 32, 33 years old at the time. And at that time, as the SAC, I was responsible for the state of Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and our office in Washington, D.C.
There's a couple of states.
A
little bit.
Yeah, so I was pretty busy.
Yeah.
Pretty busy. But here's the deal, Michael. I learned a long time ago that you never do anything by yourself, right? And the one thing that I learned very early on as a young second lieutenant actually from an enlisted sergeant who would remind me that you can't do this by yourself. And I took that with me as I matriculated to the position of special agent in charge. And so I relied very heavy on all the staff to make us a successful field division. Fortunately for me, it worked, right? And it worked because I tried to make sure that every day I went in that office, that everyone knew that their interest was my number one priority. Making sure that we're well taken care of was my number one priority. And doing that on a daily basis really allowed, I guess, me to benefit from them being all in.
Correct.
So it really not only, all saved my career, because I didn't make all the right decisions every day, but it really helped me grow as an individual. And because of that, and because of those moments, I've really tried to commit my whole being to pouring into other people. So it was, kind of those ongoing epiphanies.
Correct.
On just, hanging your hat on the realization as to why are we here. Yeah, so it was great time.
With all of that, one of the things I heard you say early on, and I want people to understand, are values.
Yes, sir.
And one of the values you said that I think is important for people to understand about themselves is dignity.
Yeah.
I heard that word, and I love that word. Obviously, it's a law enforcement type term.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't understand how important dignity is when
Yeah.
it comes to your character.
Yeah.
And we as people have to know where dignity can get us to.
Yes.
Because dignity is something you can control.
Yep.
Dignity is something that you don't have to wait for somebody else to come teach you.
You got it.
It's internal.
Yep.
And when you have that internal dignity,
Yep.
it takes you to so many different levels.
Yep.
And for you, what I've been hearing and what we've heard already is that's what drove you to a lot of the places. Like you said, 10 years, within 10 years, you were already moving
Yeah.
different spaces. And Social Security is not the most common thing we hear about in
Yep.
law enforcement.
Exactly. Yep.
But it's still something that we hear about by April 15th of every year.
Yeah, yep.
And it's a different aspect of
Yeah.
it, but it's the same thing. It's like
Yep.
people don't understand that role, but because of your level of dignity that you had internally,
Yeah.
it really pushed you to that next level. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it just came naturally, just coming to terms with how do I want to be treated.
Oof. Ooh,
Right.
That is so.
And
ooh,
so-
that's clear.
Even when someone may not be treating you in a way that you deem acceptable, it's very important, in my humble opinion, that we never stoop down to a point where we lessen our expectations of people because people haven't risen to the occasion. And I think it's very difficult to do if you're in an environment where you may not get that consistently from leadership and or from individuals you may be working with. But I think over time, if you're really trying to influence the culture that you're working in, I think it's the discipline that you must exercise to ensure that you are operating in a way in which you expect and desire individuals to engage and operate with you, right? So you treat people, in my humble opinion, respectfully, and you make sure that you give them the dignity that they deserve and you would deem appropriate for you to receive as well, regardless of what they're bringing into the room, right?
Yeah.
And now it's easier said than done, though, right? But I think as leaders, that's where you separate those that are really committed to leadership. We always say leadership, but are you really committed to actually operating as a leader? And if you are, then you understand why you must always bring the best version of yourself to the environment that you're working in, despite what may be, maybe someone else is trying to bring into the environment, that's negative, right? Eventually, those individuals will either conform to what it is that you're putting out there, and or they will wither away, right? And I think that takes a lot of discipline, and a lot of that comes from a lot of my time in the Army, and then just growing up a simple life in the country as a young kid in middle Georgia. So those values, I think, come from, they're rooted in the upbringing.
It started somewhere, yeah.
But it's also emphasized in my own personal thought process as I'm always thinking about how would I want to feel on the receiving end of that engagement. So a lot of that comes from there. Yeah.
And it's important because we always say, we heard it growing up.
Yeah.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
But that's true.
Yeah.
Like that's not like just a catchphrase.
Yeah, it's not a euphemism. It's true.
And then when someone, let's say someone does treat you wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to look at a different side of why they're treating you that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Because you don't know everybody's situation.
Exactly.
We pretend like we know.
Exactly.
But we don't
Exactly.
really know. We don't know
Exactly.
if their kid is sick
Yep.
or
Yep.
if they just got fussed at by their boss
Yep.
or maybe they just got fired or
Yep.
who knows? Or maybe they
Yep.
dropped coffee on their pants.
Yep.
We don't know.
Yep.
But if we hold our internal
Yep. Absolutely.
dignity,
Absolutely.
our internal values,
Yep.
it's going to show. And I tell people all the time, they're like, why do you love leadership? Why do you like mental wellness? Why do you always smile? I said, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if someone is upset
Yeah.
with me,
Yeah.
everybody's going to know
Yeah.
that it wasn't because of me
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah.
Because they know I put my best foot forward.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to treat people right.
Yeah.
And then at some point, that person has to look at themselves.
Yeah.
But if you are that person that's on the other end of it, where you do treat people wrong,
Yeah.
you can only blame yourself.
Exactly.
Like you can't like, oh, why is this person disrespecting me? Well, maybe you disrespected them.
Yeah.
Like especially if it's personal. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
we disrespect people. Like
Yeah.
they're like, why are you smiling? I don't know, because I'm happy. Oh, that's disrespectful. I can't
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah.
I can't be happy.
Yeah.
But that's another story in
Yeah.
itself.
No, I'm with you.
But the other story
Yeah.
is when you are treating people wrong,
Yeah.
you're not appreciating their differences, you're not understanding that it's okay to have a different opinion.
Yeah.
That's when we start to see that
Yeah.
that craft. So for you, since you've left the federal government, you obviously, we talked about you going to local police at one point, but now you're in a whole nother role
Yeah.
that, although it's related to law enforcement, it's nothing to do with the field.
Yeah.
How has that transition been,
Yeah.
going essentially to the private sector in a chief operating officer role?
Yeah, yeah. So I think a lot of the similarities, though, from what I did in, beyond becoming a SAC in a field division, after that, my role went to an SES appointment in the federal government. So I went to being a SAC of a field division to a senior executive service member in the federal government, and that was shortly, maybe 6 years after becoming the SAC. And then in that role, I was the Assistant Inspector General for Technology and Resource Management. So it got exposed to IT, HR, facilities, budget, a administrative staff, fraud hotline, all that good stuff while I was in that role, right? Not a traditional law enforcement role,
Correct.
although I was still a law enforcement officer, right?
Absolutely.
And then I left that role to become the Assistant Inspector General for Investigations, right? Back into that law enforcement traditional role where, you're managing about 80-something offices around the country, you have 10 field divisions, you have 4 headquarters
Definitely
field
different,
divisions.
definitely different.
Yeah, a little bit different, right? So then I left that role and started running the IG Academy at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, now responsible for professional development training, right? Left that role, as you've just referenced, and went to local law enforcement as a commander, and still dabbling in training, helping
Little
set
bit
up
everything at that
an
point.
Office of Professional Standards, budget, all those things, technology, a few things there. Then I went to, of course, this role here, as you've mentioned, as the Chief Operating Officer here at FBI LEDA, which I'm extremely grateful to serve in this capacity.
And I will say for the
Yeah.
audience to know,
Yeah.
I've been pressing you since you were a commanding officer, or since you were a commander at your agency. I want people to
Yes.
know that ahead of time.
Yes.
Before you took over CEO of FBI leader, I've been
Yeah.
pressing you for a few years, so I
Yes.
want people to know that out of the way.
Done deal.
People were like, I said, I press people at every level.
Yes.
Like I'm trying
I
to
love
reach
it.
out, but I'm patient. I tell
Yes.
you, I was like, you know
Absolutely.
what? You said you're busy. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna wait. But as soon as you took over the CEO
Yeah.
role,
And now we're
yeah.
here.
Yes, yes. Sorry. So tell you, go
Now
ahead.
we're
Sorry,
here.
I had to
Now
throw
we
that in there so people knew where.
And
yeah.
that's the COO role,
Yeah,
right?
CO.
The CO,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So since I've been here, I've always been attracted to opportunities that impact the development of people, right? And so all too often, especially some leaders don't consciously and consistently focus on the fact that primarily you're in the people development business,
Absolutely.
right? So the field of law enforcement, especially in leaders in law enforcement, even peers who may not be supervisors yet, what we refer to as slick sleeves, may not be supervisors yet, we're all responsible for helping in the professional development
Yes.
of our colleagues
Yes.
and or subordinates. And sometimes you have to manage up too, right? So we're all responsible for helping
Correct.
each other grow. The thing that I love about being here and serving in this capacity with FBI LEDA is I get an opportunity to, one, engage with absolutely amazing people like yourself.
Thank you.
Our very amazing instructors who instruct classes in and around the country, and the impact they have on the individuals that they engage with around the country influences positively
Yes.
the culture of law enforcement. And I think it gives us an opportunity to not only exploit the talent that we have by way of the various instructors around the country, we grow, meaning our instructors and our organizations grow intellectually, but because our instructors get an opportunity to engage with law enforcement professionals around the country.
And that is
So we
dynamic.
learn
Yeah.
just as much, if not more, from those individuals in the classroom that will help us, transform whatever courses that we're providing because they're seeing it on the ground.
Correct.
So that we can now spread that message to the others that we engage with in and around the country. So our, reference point, and many times we use kind of a motto, is cops teaching cops,
Correct.
right? So it works both ways. So being and serving in this capacity, our instructors get to relay all the institutional knowledge that they have, but at the same time, those students who are sitting in their classroom are also sharing information that makes it such an amazing experience for those that attend our training. So, I feel very privileged to be able to serve, the people who work within our organization in Malvern, Pennsylvania. I feel very privileged to serve our executive board, our executive director, who's absolutely an amazing individual who I've
yes.
known for quite some time. I'm
Another
very
person I
fortunate.
pounded for a while, yes.
I have as well.
Yeah, but that's what we do.
But he's a great individual, good
Extremely.
heart, and I've learned so much from him. And I've learned a great deal from our instructors as well as the students, because I attend the classes too. I go to the classes, I sit next to the students,
learn.
no matter where we are in and around the country, to get to know them. But I just feel privileged and honored to be able to serve in this capacity because I've taken all those tools, and I'm still developing tools, right? Just like anyone else. I take all those tools and I try to make sure that it helps me serve that audience as best as I possibly can. Because I've always believed in the upside down pyramid, right? Is I'm not necessarily, on the top of the pyramid where, individuals are feeding into me and supporting and serving those that are in the top of the
Correct.
pyramid. I convert it. You know, I'm at the bottom. I'm trying to make sure that we're putting things in place that better supports those individuals we serve. So I work for them, and I feel very honored and privileged to be able to do so. But running an organization is running an organization.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a private organization or a government organization. If you come in with the right intent and the mindset of service and the gratitude to have the ability to serve, it doesn't make it it makes it pretty easy, actually.
You're going with it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But having a great time, and very fortunate that I have a very good team that I work with.
That's important.
Yeah, very, very fortunate. But it's a different capacity, and you are right. But it's really about just serving. There's 4 things I normally try to incorporate in any environment that I'm working in. 1, I try to make sure you include people, right? You include
That's smart.
people in your circle
Yes.
to be able to help you get to where you're trying to go. I think it's important to involve people, which is different from including them. You need to involve them in the things that are, subject to change, subject to review.
Correct.
You give them an opportunity to have some input, right? And then you actually invest in them as much as you possibly can. And that was one of the things you need to make sure you do with anyone that you have a relationship with, whether it's staff members, whether it's individuals who you're partnered
Correct.
with. You make sure that you invest time and energy
Yes.
into those relationships.
It's important.
It's extremely important. And then you just got to make sure that you incorporate them into the culture as much as you possibly can, so that they can have an opportunity to influence,
Correct.
all the changes that are necessary for an organization to grow. And that has helped me for a long time.
Yeah, transition to whatever organization you're working for or with or whatever team.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just feel extremely blessed to have some sort of, impact on where the profession is going and can go. But that impact is just really because I'm listening to a whole lot of people who are a whole lot smarter than I am, and I am not too big for my britches, as my grandmother would say, to not listen to them, right? So I try to approach this with a degree of humility, and understanding that, I will never know it all, but there are enough people out there that know enough about what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And I need to make sure that I'm open to listening to them. Yeah.
With all this you've done, you've 30 plus years
Yeah.
of experience. How do you deal with all this stress?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Well, I'm very, very fortunate to have an absolutely amazing family. And that has gotten me through a lot, right? So, my wife and I this year will be celebrating 32 years of marriage, and we have 2 sons. We met in college, and I'm very, very lucky that I met her. And she's followed me around the country, and I've been very, very fortunate that she's, been open to do so. I have 2 sons that we're extremely proud of, and that kind of puts me at ease when I know that they're doing what they're supposed to do, right? And they're both actually in federal service right now. So I'm extremely proud of both of them. And the one thing I try to do, I love jazz music.
Okay.
I like to take a break here and there and just relax and listen to jazz music. I do have a hobby that helps me, but my hobby is, talking about, fiscal responsibilities, personal finances, and the investment arena. So that's kind of a hobby of mine, and there's so much to learn in that area, especially
important.
with financial literacy, things of that nature. The other thing that kind of settles me in many instances is trying to walk through life with the degree of purpose. And one of the things that, and you've referred to it during our conversation already, is the importance of officer wellness, physical health, mental health, financial health. And that's just one piece of some of the things that we're trying to put together more formally here at FBI LEDA to be able to provide resources and assistance, knowledge about it in and around the country to the people that we serve. So we're in the infancy stage of kind of hopefully putting some things together that will help that area, because that is something very deeply personal, because I've seen it in federal service more than I needed to, where individuals felt as though they needed to take their own life, and you just wonder in your capacity as a leader, was there something else you could have done? And so I'm very committed to that, and trying to figure out some more tangible solutions that we can do. Now, there are many individuals out there who are doing some absolutely amazing things, and we're very fortunate you're here at this conference to talk about an aspect of that as well. But I think collectively we have an obligation to do more, right? And we're trying to figure out what role can we play in that. So my ability to focus on other things and have some hobbies, my great fortune of having a family that has been very good to me, and my wife in particular, and my sons as well, and that has probably helped me more so than any other class or anything else, is having that support. But because we can't do this by ourselves, right? Can't do this by ourselves. And I've been in some stressful positions, I guess, most of my career. One of the things I try to do is control what I can, and the things I can't control, it is what it is.
Correct.
Especially if you've done your best, you've given it your best shot, you've presented the best version of yourself, and you need to be okay with that. And so over the years, as I've gotten a little more mature, I've grown in that area where I'm not as tough or hard on myself. I still am, but not as tough and hard on myself as I used to be.
That's fair. And it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think I know one of the best parts of how you handle stress.
Yeah.
I think foremost is you have a supporting wife.
Yeah.
32 years, like
Yep.
you said.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a far way. And it doesn't have to be for everybody to have a spouse. It's just having that
Yeah.
one other person
Yeah.
in your life, whether it's a mom, a sister,
Yeah.
just a good friend.
That's right. That's right.
Because
That's right.
we all go through tough
Yep.
times.
Yep.
At different levels.
Yep,
I tell
exactly.
people, I was talking to some people last night, I was like, I was hearing people's stories, and
Yeah.
usually after I present,
Yeah.
people tell me very deep
Yeah.
things, and
Yeah.
I tell them all the time, I said, man, you really have to share these stories,
Yeah.
because you don't know who you can impact.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I hear them, I don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't know how I would function.
Yeah.
But so I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, you don't have to weigh your story to somebody else's to think
Yeah.
if it's hard.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes through something.
Yeah. Of course.
And
Every day.
having different outlets, like you said,
Yeah.
that, jazz, finances,
Yeah.
then
I like to
yourself
work out
to-
every now and then.
Yeah.
I like to run
Yeah.
and all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, you maintain good shape. I mean, it's definitely not like we
Yeah.
got to roll you anywhere, so you're good.
Done deal.
We don't have to put you up. We don't have to roll you up the escalator, so
That's
you're
right,
good.
that's right.
But I think when it comes to like wellness and
Yeah.
stress management,
Yeah.
you have to find multiple things, and
Yeah.
you obviously have to have a base, but
Yeah.
taking that time to
Yeah.
realize what works for you.
Yeah.
Like I would have never thought you said jazz.
Yeah.
But jazz is soothing. It's
Oh yeah.
relaxing. And
Oh yeah.
everyone
That's
thinks
my
about-
thing.
Yeah. Even
I can't
10
play
years-
it,
yeah.
but I love to listen to it.
But,
Yeah.
and you don't have to play everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's what
right.
other people, like you said, that's
That's
what other
right.
people are
Yeah.
good for.
Yeah.
You just listen to their work.
Exactly.
Which is good.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
for me, that's a great way to manage stress.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be the same for everybody.
That's
But
right.
you have to find different outlets.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. I was
Yep.
like, what works for Michael
Yep.
Laitler, what works for Michael Robinson,
Yeah.
may not work for Joe
Yeah.
Smith
Yeah.
or Jane Doe.
Yeah.
But everybody you
Yeah.
will, you have to, and you have to search for it, because nobody can tell you, whether it's a leader or whoever you think should be telling you, they can't tell you what works for you.
That's right.
They can offer you suggestions.
Yeah.
And you like
Yeah.
it or you don't.
Yeah.
But you can't expect somebody else
Yeah.
to find what controls your stress.
Yeah.
So for you, it's amazing to hear that
Yeah.
you have multiple outlets.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to hear and list
Yeah.
at some point what works for them,
Exactly.
and try different things.
Yeah.
Like even when our kids are growing up, and I know this doesn't really correlate as well, but we make our kids eat different things.
Yep.
Because they're like, oh, I don't like broccoli.
Yeah.
And now, like, I mean, I didn't eat broccoli when I was young, but
Yeah.
I love broccoli now.
Yeah.
But it's because I was exposed to it
Yep.
that I slowly started liking
Yep.
it. Same thing when it comes to stress.
That's right.
And activities. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to try different things
Yep.
to see what works.
Agreed.
I love walking. I like hiking.
Yeah.
I do like music. I like cigars. I mean,
Yeah.
it's different things that
Yep.
I like
Yep.
that
Yep.
I didn't know until I tried it once.
That's right.
Now, you don't try everything once, but
Right.
there's certain things that are safer that you try.
Right. I get it. I agree.
There's some things I would never say try.
There you go.
But
There you go.
there's some things that are safe that
Yes,
doesn't
sir.
have like a
Yes,
negative
sir.
connotation to it that
Absolutely.
you can try. So,
Yep.
But for me, it's important for people to understand that there's multiple ways to
Yep.
address anything you have going on,
Yep.
and you're not by yourself. You're
Yep.
not. You don't have to do the stressful. You don't have to address things that happen to you by yourself. There's
Yep.
someone out there, even an FBI leader, like you said.
Yep.
Although you guys are in the infancy stages of wellness, you're already thinking at that level. You're
Yep.
bringing in speakers like myself. I heard another woman earlier, this morning, Marsha. I don't know her last name, but
Yeah,
she was talking
Thompson.
about Thompson. She was talking about resiliency
Yep.
and trauma and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, there's people out
Yep.
there. I mean, I know I talked about with you the Officer Wellness Group that
Yep.
I just created.
Yep.
Just to address all these different
That's
wellness
right.
areas because it's. I want people to know, and like I said, there's great companies that do it already.
Yeah.
That there's options out there.
No doubt.
You
Absolutely.
just gotta find what
Absolutely.
works for you, and not everything
Absolutely.
will work for you, which
That's
is
right.
fine. Like my style, you may say, Michael, I don't like anything about you. Hey, it works for Michael Layler, and
Yeah.
at least you know what I have
That's right.
done.
That's
That's
right.
all that matters
Yeah.
to me. As long as you can say I gave you options, that's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't want people to say, kind of like with the dignity and your own values.
Yeah.
I don't want people to say, oh, he didn't try.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't do it that way. No, I do it my way. That
Yeah.
works. So it's good that you have your way. So with all this said in mind, if people were looking for you and they were trying to reach out and it's like, you know what,
Yeah.
we love what you're doing with Lita, or we just want to hear more of your story,
Yeah.
how would they find you?
Absolutely. So during all of my career in federal law enforcement, I was literally never on social media, right? I wasn't on Facebook. I'm still not. I wasn't on, I guess, Instagram, TikTok, and all that.
They call it X. They call it Twitter.
X,
like X now,
okay,
yes.
done deal. I'm
Yeah,
not on
yeah.
either one of those, but I think it was through one of my graduate school programs that convinced us to set up a LinkedIn account.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really never started using LinkedIn until I took this job
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So I'm getting pretty decent at it. But if anyone wants to connect with me, I'd love to connect with
Yeah, absolutely.
anyone on LinkedIn. And I don't know how they would find me, but of course I'm Michael D. Robinson Sr. And I think they can find me that way.
They can look at my account and they can look at connections and stuff.
Done deal,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it shows MS, MBA, MPA, because I
Mhm.
have a Master's of Science, a
Yeah.
Master's in Business, and a Master's of Public Administration. So you never stop learning. That's something very
You don't,
important
Joe.
as
I'm about to
well.
think about my doctor's next year. I was
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
last night to some folks about
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So LinkedIn's the best way.
LinkedIn is the only way.
Okay, fair enough. I know, trust me,
The
I'm hey,
only
hey,
way,
that's how I
absolutely.
connect with you through LinkedIn. So.
Absolutely. And then if they connect with me, if they need the FBI Lita email address, I'll be more than happy to provide that to them as well once they connect with me,
Yeah.
and we can go from there. But I'd love to connect with anyone out there to talk about what we can do to better support our law enforcement professionals, what we can do to better support young people, what we
Family,
can do to
whatever.
to make this society a better place. So so I'm here for it.
Final words.
Yes, sir.
You tell us. What are some of your final words?
Wow. My final words would be take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And one thing I used to always tell my sons is that you were born to be great and do great things, but I then put a comma after it for others. Those are my final words, sir.
And I love it's so genuine, authentic, and it makes so much sense.
Yes, sir.
Like you were born to be great, comma, for others.
Yeah.
And people want that. People deserve it.
Yep.
I mean, you deserve it to yourself, obviously.
Of
but
course.
once you get to that level, that's when you start bringing people up. And I've
Yep.
talked to you about that since Sunday.
Yep.
Like, hey, one of the goals one of the things I'm at right now is how do I bring other people
Yep.
to the field? Whatever, I might not have any benefit, which I don't care about. I mean, I do well
Yep.
for myself.
Yep.
I have everything I need. My son has everything. My family has everything they
There you
need.
go.
But now I'm at a point to where, how do I get others to that level?
That's right.
How do I bring other people on
That's
board?
right.
I know you guys are doing that great here.
Yep.
So the final words and the message that you give to your sons, you're also living it too.
Yep.
You're leading by example, so that's important for
Yep.
people to understand. So I do appreciate your time.
Yep.
I
Thank
know
you.
This has been a great, amazing podcast. I know people are going to hear background noise, and people know I don't like to edit my podcast
Done
in
deal.
general. They
Not
know
a problem.
they're going to be like, why do you hear tape in the background?
Yeah,
Or why?
yeah.
Because we film it live.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring was this kind of connection for people to see.
Sounds great.
There's always other platforms, like when people see me on Zoom or they might just hear my podcast. I still do those, but I've really enjoyed doing this because we have this one-on-one.
Yes, sir.
And it's amazing to be in a live environment dealing
Yep.
with live background noises to kind of show it's real. We got the flags up here,
Yep.
which you guys don't know. We did put these 2 flags up
Yes,
here
sir.
to
Absolutely.
promote and to advertise FBI Leader. Because
Hey, take
you
our
guys-
classes.
Yes,
We
you
want
take your
you to-
last time,
that's
you go
right.
to FBILeader.org.
You got it.
And you'll see all the different classes and everything else that you're looking for to help you get to that level of leadership. Help you get to things of just personal development.
Yep.
Obviously, I know you guys work with other agencies. Something I didn't know, they do FBI Trilogy for the agencies now.
We do.
So
Absolutely.
That was
Absolutely.
a whole other aspect that I was like, oh, that's really cool. I
That's
like
right.
that. But I wouldn't have known unless I came. And
That's
I mean,
right.
I know you guys promote it, but it's always different in person. So
Yep.
if you guys haven't had a chance, check out FBI Leader. Obviously, you can find Michael on LinkedIn.
Yep.
But I do enjoy your time.
Thank you,
for
sir.
everything, guys. Make sure you guys, if you don't check him out, check me out, and then go find him.
Done deal.
Subscribe, email, because we're trying to always make a movement. We're always trying to grow this industry. We're always trying to humanize and show people go through things and just show different levels, because we're all different and it's okay. There's no problem with that. But we're always on a mission to be better. If it isn't just for us, it's for others. And if it just isn't for the others, it's for the organization. So this is where it starts. This is how you grow yourself, because you have to be a lifelong learner, like Michael said earlier, to get to the goals you need. So thank you for watching this show. Make sure you share it with somebody else if you found any benefit to it. And we will see you on the next one. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, guys.